Hi, everybody. This is Morne again on the lockdown day in South Africa, number 13, this 9th day of April. Thank you for joining us on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I see some good initiatives going around on Facebook at this point, where people are being freelancers, specifically freelance industry people are being taken food, given assistance financially and physically. Guys, I'd like to really encourage you to look after your mental health. There's all sorts of things on Facebook. Look at your finances if you can, and I can't emphasize it too much or more. It's we're all in this boat by ourselves, not by ourselves, together. Sorry, we're all in this boat together together. And I'd like to encourage you to just look after yourself. This too will pass, and in the bigger scheme of things, it's a blip on the calendar. We'll get through this. Well, today, a very interesting thing. I never thought when I was 10 or maybe even 15 years ago that I'd be able to do this. Today we are going to, let me just show you where we're going. Lou, you'll be impressed with this. We are going, you see there's South Africa. Obviously we know there's South Africa. We are going a gazillion miles all the way to a place called, just update, the Bay of Plenty. So we are an amazing amount of, and the guy who lives there as Louis Bolton. Good morning, Louis. How are you doing?
Kia ora from New Zealand.
Oh, is that what it is? Kia ora.
Kia ora. It means welcome.
Cool,
hello.
How are you doing, man?
Hello, Morne. I'm very well. How are you, man? Thanks for having me.
Keeping on, man. I think it's as we spoke earlier, it's keeping on. What can we do? We all in this, you in New Zealand, my friends in Atlanta, in Atlanta, Canada, South Africa, Babsfontein, Bronkhorstspruit, Brakpan, Bay of Plenty. We're all in the same boat. I said to somebody earlier that you could be the most important person on the planet, you could be all that. Everybody is in the same boat. And how are you guys coping over there?
Yeah, Morne, thanks again for having me. Hello to everyone who's listening or not listening or will watch this in future. It's day 15 of lockdown in New Zealand after this bizarre episode of COVID-19 has taken place. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, it's tough, man. I mean, self-isolation and isolation is something that I don't think any one of us would expect in our lives to experience. It's a gift, it's a curse, it's a blessing, it's everything in between. I mean, we're on the eve of Easter, and we're talking to each other from 12,500 kilometers away from each other. And I think what you are doing and the contributions from everyone that you've spoken to it's beautiful, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I agree with you. So Lou, let's get straight into it. I mean, what have you guys been busy with, specifically you? What have you been busy with for the last, I know, let me just tell you what I know is I remember in December, I had a WhatsApp from you saying, I got my working visa, and you were, I think it was just before December or just in January somewhere. And what have you been busy with for since December till now?
It's funny that you say that, Morne, because I remember that conversation. I was sitting in the car about to take my daughter to school, and
I remember that.
WhatsApp. I think you were where were you? In some African country.
Yeah, it was in the morning with you. I think I was in Benin or in Nigeria or Benin. Yeah, North Africa.
That's right. So let me take it a step back for you quickly, Morne. just to give a brief kind of story of where I've come from and where I've got to. We've known each other for quite a while, based on the fact that we were introduced by Darren,
Yes.
who you spoke to last night, and we have worked together and understand the nuances of working in South Africa and making a living and looking after a family. Back in 2017, we were on a farm renting a place in the Midlands in the Dargle Valley, and my wife turned to me with a glass of wine and said, "Would you ever consider moving countries?" And up until that point, I had never considered leaving South Africa. I had never considered leaving the country of my birth, let alone moving and trying something new. I was quite comfortable in my ability as a director, as an editor, as a DOP in South Africa. By no stretch of the imagination was I making a ton of money or anything like that. But just based on where I come from and my story, we decided to investigate the possibility of moving countries. We decided on New Zealand because it was the easiest barrier to entry, purely because I had a South African passport and my wife had a Dutch passport. And we looked at various options. I must just say this from the outset, is that I am not, disclaimer, I'm not an immigration officer. I'm not giving any immigration advice whatsoever. If you want immigration advice, please go and look at the relevant channels on the internet and seek out an immigration lawyer, because it's worth it. We came to New Zealand for a 3-month, what we call a look-see decide holiday, and to fulfill visa qualifications, you have to, in order to come to New Zealand, you have to have a job offer. So all of us that are listening to this, and yourself, Monet, we are freelancers. We understand what the world of freelance is. You work your own time, you have a client base, and you do pretty much what you want, when you want, based on various productions or however they work. In order to immigrate on a South African passport, you need a solid job offer from a company or a entity that will sponsor or support you getting that work visa. So we came over for a 3-month look-see decide, and it's all a point system.
Yeah.
So Auckland being the main hub, for you guys that don't know New Zealand, it's 2 islands, North Island and South Island, Auckland being the top of the North Island, Wellington being the south of the North Island, and then the South Island, which is Christchurch, Invercargill, and Queenstown, and all the beautiful places.
The geography is with the geography you've lost me already.
Yeah.
But
okay. So long story short, in order to get more points for our visa, we had to work outside of Auckland, which is a major city. And Auckland is probably the size of half of Johannesburg. Okay, it is a metropole, it is a city, but it's very small, mate. But it's still happening, it's still functioning. But we had to find work outside of that area. So we moved to a place purely because, long story, we found someone that we knew via friends, in a place called Tauranga, Tauranga, in the Bay of Plenty on the North Island. Beautiful place just on the coast. We spent those 3 months, first of all, acclimatizing ourselves to a New Zealand lifestyle and finding out if we could work. My wife is in the marketing game, and obviously I've been a freelancer pretty much for the whole of my life. So I had to find somebody that would employ me as a full-time cameraman, editor, sound person, all the stuff that we do across the board. I had to choose one of them and make it work. It was not easy. So I had to hustle. I had to do all the research. It was a relearning. It was quite interesting because I kind of expected it to, not to fall in my lap. That wasn't what I expected, but I did expect it to kind of be a lot easier. It wasn't. And I had to have that job offer before we ran out of our visa. Our first visa was a visitor's visa. I contacted every production agency that I could in the Bay of Plenty area. It's not a large area, and there are probably a couple of 100. I phoned every single one of them. I swallowed my pride. I phoned them and told them what I am, worked on the CV, hustled, cried many a day, had a bottle of wine every now and again to cope. I had a 7-year-old daughter at the time. It was an interesting time, but I was determined to make it work because I wanted to redesign my life. There was nothing wrong with South Africa, and that's what you have to understand. I wanted to redesign my life and try something new. I've always wanted to do that. The second last day that we were in New Zealand, I had a job offer for a production company to film a couple of documentaries in and around New Zealand.
Okay.
Thrilled, signed the paperwork, did everything, sent it off to the lawyer, gave the handshake, and flew back to South Africa and packed up my life.
But at this point, you have spent quite a bit of money and knocked on a few doors, and you're running
Correct.
on. You know, I knew that you, well, you know, not to state the obvious, but I mean, this doesn't come free. You saved up. You've used a lot of resources to get to this point.
So we managed to sell a very small property in Port Elizabeth, which we used to fund the move over to New Zealand. And to date, Monet, you're in excess of about 350k rand, ZAR, to get us here. I'm 45 years old as of September last year, and it is starting your life from scratch, as anyone will attest to that's moved countries or whatever the case is. I have no regrets. Moving on with the story, went back home, said goodbye to everyone, sold pretty much everything, did what we had to do and pack up our house. We were renting at the time, so that was fairly easy. Sold my motorbike, which was a hard thing to do.
I know, because I don't know.
Because you were one of the people that exactly. So
but no,
but yeah. The things we do, and there's a lot of stuff that that happened behind the scenes that facilitated that. And we landed on the 2nd of September 2018, which was a Saturday or a Sunday, and I had to meet my new boss, who I'd never worked for after being freelance for 20 years, on the Monday. Went for coffee with him on the Monday and sat down with him. He met my wife, he met my daughter, and he said, I apologize, but the job is no longer. The sponsors have pulled out. There is no work.
What?
So I was in an absolute state of shock. We drove home after having bought a car for, what was it? $800 at the time. It didn't even, I had to rewire it to make sure it goes. Went home and we were in a state of shock because the visa was in my name. The work visa was in my name.
That sounds horrible, man.
It was, but the work that I'd done in the previous 3 months paid off, because I phoned every single person that I had on my list and I begged them. I said, please, whatever it takes, I need to make this work, and I need to keep my family here. How do we make this work? And there were, Kiwis. They're a good bunch. They want to help you. So we made something work. One of the folks that I had spoken to was interested in me, but didn't have a position for me. So after what had happened, I phoned them and said, right, I'm not asking, I'm telling you, I'm coming to work for you. How do we make this work? Anyway, he made it. he made it work, and he hired me as the camera person, DOP/editor, whatever the case is. And I was very grateful. So I worked for a boss, and that facilitated.
Let me stop you there. Let me just stop you there, Lou. And I think it's a valuable thing. Before I forget, it's you're not a one-trick pony, which is and for that. Not being a one-trick pony, you're a very determined non-one-trick pony. You edit, you shoot, you do photography. You've got a fantastic website, and you've got tenacity. And I think that's an important thing to just pause on for 1 second. Very important point.
I think in today's climate, Monet, based on where we're at, and I will get back to that current journey. In today's climate, where I hear a lot of people saying, "What can I do now? What can I do now?" Just breathe. I know that sounds obvious and it sounds like a cliche.
Yeah.
And you've said it many times, and many of your guests have said this. This too shall pass. And I often say to myself, in those moments when I was phoning all these different people thinking, I don't know how I'm going to make this work. I don't know if I'm going to be able to support my family and live in a new country when I've got nothing to go back to. What's the worst that could happen? What's the absolute worst that could happen? Well, the worst case scenario is I could die. If you think about it in that extreme sense, that's the worst case scenario. I could die. But you'd be surprised in the human spirit and what people do around you. And we've experienced it now through COVID-19 and through the lockdown in its various guises. For you guys in South Africa, for us here in New Zealand. So yes, I think if I was younger, I'm not sure if I would have handled it as eloquently and as calmly as I did, because there were some tough times, mate. And we've all had tough times, and we've all got stories to tell in our various businesses, as entrepreneurs, as freelancers, as workers in this industry, where we have to put on a brave face, where a lot of us are living from hand to mouth. We're waiting for that paycheck. And everyone says, save up some of your money, make sure that you've got 6 months, 8 months, a year, whatever the number is, to look out for that time where you might need it. Well, this is the time. We're in it.
Yeah.
And it's a very real thing. So to get back to a very long story, which I'll cut short, is I worked for a year. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, to work for a boss. I'm not going to lie to you. It was very tough. But I learned new skills. I learned how to edit on various platforms. And I learned how to deal with a new culture and a new way of doing business. The NZ industry, and I'll get onto it a little bit later, is unique in its way that it's actually much smaller than obviously South Africa, and that's purely a numbers game. There's only 5 million of us here on North and South Island. There are 55 million of you in South Africa. So it is a numbers game. And you mentioned this in one of your earlier broadcasts, Monet. This is a people relationship game.
Yeah.
This is building relationships with people that you want to work with. And there are people that I don't want to work with, and there are people that you don't want to work with, and there are people that keep calling you back saying, Monet, please come and do this project, and you will drop anything to work with them and for them.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that, and you mentioned it before. It's who you are as a person. It's what you represent, and it's and the work ethic and the work that you do. So back to my story. I was unfortunately released, let go. My contract was not renewed at the end of last year, which put us into another predicament where I had to reapply for a visa. My wife fortunately had a job by then, so she became the primary applicant for a work visa. And we are now on what we call a work to residency visa. So long story short, you get a work visa, you have to maintain a certain amount of hours, you have to earn a certain amount, you have to work for at least a year, and then you can then apply for residency. You then pay the fee and you wait for up to a year, which we're in the process of doing, to get your residency. Once you get residency, you can pretty much do what you want, freelance, etc., etc. So that is where we are at now. Bridget is permanently employed. I am freelancing, which brings me back to the industry here in New Zealand. It's me starting again. It's Louis 2.0. I've had to forget about what I knew in South Africa, even though with all that knowledge and the different genres that I fit in, and find clients and understand what it is to work in a new environment. There are 3 main hubs in New Zealand. There's the Auckland Film Commission, there's Wellington down south, and then there is a newly developed film area called the Film Bay of Plenty, of which I am part of, which only started 2 years ago. So it's in its absolute infancy, which is a perfect place to be, because I have quite a bit of knowledge coming from, from that background to bring to them. And I've met some amazing people, and they're very accommodating, but it's very young, and it's exciting. There's a lot of scope for training. There's a lot of scope for growing the industry. Just before we went into lockdown, what was it, 15 days ago, we shot a pilot for a web series here in the Bay of Plenty in Mount Maunganui called Chloe, which I was very lucky to assistant direct. And it was great to meet the people and work together in a team that are excited about getting the pilot going for that. So that is what I was doing just before lockdown. That's in production at the moment, just in terms of getting the pilot ready. Once lockdown does get lifted, and who knows when that may be, we will shoot a web series, 8 episodes with funding. So that is something to look forward to, but not guaranteed. Not guaranteed.
As in freelance, I mean, it's a very key point there. In freelance, no booking is confirmed until you're on set doing it.
Correct, absolutely correct. And it's about maintaining those relationships. Yeah, and it's the same with you guys back home. Nobody knows what this is going to look like when lockdown is lifted. And you keep saying there is a red light. This content needs to be made. Productions need to be made. Here's the thing, though, which I find quite interesting, is that, yes, content is going to have to be made. And now, and you're right, this conversation that we're having here needs to extend beyond what we are just doing in our everyday lives, because this suddenly opens up a whole gamut of questions and answers that we don't know about yet, because a lot of the stuff that we're feeling now is based on fear. Like Darren said last night, with change, and change is constant. We just didn't know that it would be this kind of change. But there is fear, denials, just being scared, just being optimistic. I mean, Siv said it, if you don't come out of this a better person, then you failed. I think that's a bit, I think we're too hard on ourselves. I think we need to take a deep breath and just go, this too shall pass, and I'm okay. Right now, in this moment, I'm okay. The situation is okay, and what can I do about it? So there's a lot of introspection happening across the board.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also important to remember that in however old you are, if you think about 21 days, I mean, it takes you 9 months to get born. I mean, there's so many things that you can equate to 21 days. That our careers. I've been doing this for a very long time as well. And there's people who've been doing it longer than me as well. It's a very odd situation. And you asked me earlier, what is the longest I've been not working? And at top of my mind, it's this. It's only this. And if you think about it, it's an odd situation. And I think we'll get out of this odd situation.
Yeah, you will. And I can tell you that because I sat on my bum for nearly, quite a while. I want to say almost 2 months, not having any income, relying on savings and everything like that. And I promise you, it plays tricks on your mind. It plays tricks on your whole, like, am I worth it? Am I doing something wrong? Should I change careers? What am I doing wrong? Why can I not make, what can I do? And you'll be surprised at what I've done. I mean, I had to deliver pizzas. I had to walk dogs. You do what you have to do to survive.
Yeah.
And it's a very humbling process. And I think this situation that we're in is a gift and a curse at the same time, because obviously it's a very real thing. I mean, we all know of people that have been affected or not infected. I mean, my brother, unfortunately, has been suspected case as well, which hurts me. He's in England. I'm in New Zealand. I can't do anything about it. So, there's a whole lot of different situations that arise from this. And your opening remarks for this about mental health is what I'm most concerned about coming out of this, Monet, is people's mental health, because the one thing that you're going to have to face are your own demons, your own your own sort of addictions. I know that you guys have got an alcohol ban. Am I correct? That alcohol's
it's a restriction of movement completely. Only
Right.
if you can, only for medical or sustenance like food and stuff or emergencies. And then you'll be able to justify it. If you don't have a document, like my wife has got a document that states that she's part of essential services because she works for a financial institution. She went into the office yesterday, and it's a document that you, and then it's also very, very restrictive of when it can happen. And then there's a blanket ban on the sale of alcohol and cigarettes. And then there's also a blanket ban on the sale of non-essential goods. So in our shops, you can't buy a pot or a pan or a knife or it's weird, the things that they've decided are not, you can't buy certain things.
So it's an enforced rehabilitation, for lack of a better word. I mean, there's a whole literally different things that you can look at.
Yeah.
But you are suddenly faced with who you are, because we're not busy anymore. You're not on your motorbike leaving at 4 o'clock in the morning to make a call time at 5 o'clock on set.
Yeah.
You know, and speaking to your wife or to your son on the phone saying, yeah, Dad will be home a little bit later, I'll chat to you then, because you're in it now. And it's the truth. I mean, we're in a situation where, fortunately, this move from South Africa to New Zealand has made my family, or our family, very close-knit. I've only got one daughter. She's 9 years old. And we've had to live together, which in a very small sort of area on a very busy road, which is not so busy now because of lockdown. But you become resilient, and resilience builds character, and that character will carry you forward. And to all the youngsters out there, girls, guys, this too shall pass. We don't know how long that's going to be.
Very, very important point there, Lou. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's a very important point. Is just carry on, carrying on, man. Just stick to your guns.
You know, one of the things
that character.
One of the things that I did was I was faced with that fact of who I am and what I'm doing, and on the Instagram stories I used to go and do these stories, not for anybody else, but for me, to say, you know, get up, dress up, show up, and then just rinse and repeat. And I know it sounds banal and it sounds cliche, but I didn't do it for anyone else but myself, as a reminder to say, I'm okay. But if I get up and I show up and I continue to do that, something has to give, something has to change. And with the support of everyone around me and my own kind of support, and with what you're doing, Monet, and with the guests that you've had and people listening to this conversation or not, it doesn't really matter. The fact is that we're connecting and we're sharing experiences to get us through this, because that's the humanness and that's what we do.
Well, the only thing that I could think about, and I keep on saying it, is what if you focus on what you can't do, I think you'll lose perspective. So I decided that's a given. We cannot move around. We cannot go and work with it. That's a given. So forget about that. Let's focus on what we can do. And that's how I came across this thing. And I've been sitting with this thing for a very long time. And here we are with a lot of time, and I'm sitting with the time to able to start something. And you know where we're going with this. We'll talk about it now, but what I'm trying to create here is exactly what I say it's a cohesive industry talk where we can talk about issues about anything.
I agree.
Now we are focusing on on what we can do right now, but I mean this can extend to musicians, business, to anybody, and it can go into intricacies about how do you do invoicing, how do you do payments, how do you deal with your taxes, how do you deal with finance, how do you buy. I mean, it's a how the financial landscape. There's so many things you can talk about.
Monet, I don't know if you've had this this thought or this feeling, but one thing that's been highlighted for me in my journey, this immigration journey, and speaking to you now, is that money is not the be all and end all of everything. Yes, it is an essential factor to live in the system that we live in, because you have to pay the rent and you have to buy food and you've got to put petrol in your motorbike. That we understand. But it does make you question about how much you need and what you need. And I think for me, that's something that's been highlighted, where I don't need much. I know that sounds
Yeah.
bizarre, but you know, you have every right to live a comfortable life. You have every right to drive the car that you want to, the motorbike you want to, and look after your kids and your family and have it. I accept that. But I think a lot of things are being highlighted now going, well, do we need, you know, 3 packs of chocolates in the cupboard? Or
Yeah.
you know, I know it sounds simplistic, but it does make you realize what is important. And the world is going to be different. I keep saying it's the new normal. It's actually not the new normal. It's just a temporary normal because it's going to change again.
Yeah, I caught myself yesterday saying to somebody who called, excuse me, somebody who called in, and Evelyn had gone to work and everything, and I said, "Oh, we're all back to normal." And I was like,
Yeah,
mind shift. I said, "Sorry, we all back home," you know. And it's like you say,
absolutely. You know,
yeah. Sorry, just look at that, Mike Schwacker. So truly, we don't need much to be alive and happy. Mike Schwacker, the
thank you.
photographer.
Thank you, Mike Schmucker. I hope you finished your. Yeah, I mean, I love it because, you know, we live vicariously through each other with what we do. And, you know, a lot of people have said, document what you are going through now because, Monet, you said it earlier. I wouldn't have, if you told me a couple of years ago, I think we did the launch of Isuzu back in 2013. You came and did some film work alongside me. If you'd said to me in a couple of years' time in 2020, we'd be talking to each other from across continents via an app, I would have said,
about a lockdown.
Yeah, exactly. Let me buy you another beer, mate. You know, and
what is smoking? Yeah.
So yeah, Mike, keep doing what you're doing, brother. I mean, we've all got stories to tell and gifts to share, and keep shredding, mate. Keep shredding. I wish I could do what you're doing. Monet, keep riding your motorbike, mate. That's your passion. You're still good at what you do. I'm finding mine. I'm not quite sure what that is, but you know, it puts things into perspective. And if you can take a much higher view and look at it, and Darren said it last night as well, about looking at your business. Your business is you. You don't have to be the owner of a massive company or a small company or whatever the case is. Find out what's important to you and look after that, because that's what's going to get you through. And look after this. And yeah, this too shall pass. I keep saying that, and this too shall pass. I remind myself of that every day. You know, every day I think to myself, where's the next? How am I going to pay for food? How am I going to pay for electricity? Just to give you an insight into New Zealand in terms of expenses coming from South Africa, we were living on a farm in the Midlands, a 5-bedroom farm, old farm. We were paying 5,000 rand a month. I live in a 3-bedroomed house in the middle of Tauranga, and I pay $500 a week. Okay,
a week.
A week. Everything is by the week here. Okay, so it was a massive mind shift for me to go. Okay, best I get my shit into order and get things going. So it's about perspective, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity to share my story. And if any of you guys want to ask me any more questions, get hold of Monet, or you know where to get hold of me. I'm happy to share my story, and you know, a little bit about it. And guys, just have faith, have trust, love one another, and we'll get through this. We'll get through this, however that may look. And there might be some dark times ahead, and there probably are going to be some dark times ahead. Let's be real. We'll be okay.
Yeah, Lou, thank you very much, man. A lot of people are asking right now, and it's. I just keep on saying I don't have the silver bullet answer. What can people do right now? And you've been through a journey where you had to do stuff right now to be able to get somewhere. And I think it's people are saying, and I think everybody that's listening, company owners, I see there's a few people here that's looking. There's AutoQ. There's people that own businesses. There's musicians listening. There's sound guys. There's editors. What do you say? And if you don't have an answer, I don't have the answer. But if you have some kind of insight in what one can do right now, other than sitting down and just falling into covering yourself in a piece of plastic and just waiting.
Monet, it's a valid question, and it's a very real question. And I think in times like this, we look for outside validation to a certain extent to say, okay, cool, I'm all right. I'm not the only one in this. We're all in this together. You've said it before. What's the worst that could happen if you just crumble down and cry? If you pull the duvet over yourself and you sleep for an extra hour or two. After a while, you're going to get hot full of sleeping. After a while, you're going to get hot full of crying. The tears will have flown. And hopefully you will have learned a new aspect of yourself or gone, I can't continue this. Let me give someone a call. Let me connect with someone. Let me, I don't know, bake bread. Let me go onto YouTube and listen to a tutorial, whatever the case is. Guys,
something.
Stop being so hard on yourselves. Stop being so hard on yourselves. Take a breath. Just relax. Enjoy this time with yourself, with your partner, with your family, with your kid, or by yourself. Look, think about it. This lockdown has put people in a position that are in a new relationship to be forced into self-isolation for 21 days. Can you imagine what that must be like?
Wow.
There's a situation where divorced people have now separated and there are kids between mom and dad. How do you handle that? There are people that are now stuck with their parents who they don't get along with. You know, it's about perspective and about going, hey, it's not so bad. We'll get through this. And what can I learn about myself? And there are various things. If you want to go scream into a pillow, I've done that. Scream into a pillow. Write. Create. Edit photographs. Create something. Darren's got a wonderful thing. You've done a wonderful thing here. Comment in the chat. Call someone in your flippin' phone book that you haven't called for so long. I don't know. There's a gamut of stuff that you can do. Take a breath. Relax. Alles sal reg wees. Kyk maar noord.
Brad Versace has dialed in. Just I hope your family are doing well. That's for you, Lou. You know, can you see this?
I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look after each other, and I can guarantee you, and I'll put my head on a block here and saying that once lockdown is lifted, once the red light goes to green, and all these productions get put into place, and you are running up and down, Monet, and Brad, you're running up and down doing what you do, and Mike, you are taking the photographs that you're doing, and Darren is, you know, in it with his meetings and sorting out clients and everything like that. You're going to look back on this time and go, yowzers, I appreciated that when it was, but I appreciate it even more now. And
it was the breath we needed to take. I think it was like you say, take a breath, look after your mental health. And Lou, thank you very much, man. Is there anything else? Let me just rather say thank you very much for you know, availing your time. I know you were busy watching a movie with your wife, and it's 9 o'clock, going on half past 9 at 20 to 10 there in New Zealand and in the PM. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a good mate, still being a good mate, although we are,
pleasure.
What did you say, 14,000 miles, 11,000 miles?
12,500 Ks, 12,500 Ks. And listen, I must say, guys, I miss South Africa. You know, I still say a braai. We've just had a delivery of biltong before the Easter weekend, which I'm very grateful for. There's a huge expat community here, many of which I don't know, and I miss you guys. I really do. South Africa is a beautiful, beautiful place and holds a special place in my heart. I have to make this my home. This is my home now. We're on a journey. We're on a journey now, and if I ever do make it back to South Africa, I hope to see your bubbly, shiny faces and share my experiences and have a laugh and have a chat. But guys, take a breath. It'll be okay.
Mike is asking something. What movie were you watching with your wife?
Funny enough, Mike, we were watching Ozark. We're into Ozark at the moment, and I'm finding it quite riveting. I mean, obviously we have a bit of a routine, so we have to, you know, we're working from home, doing a little bit that we can, and little one, once she goes to bed, we get a bit of time, a bit of R&R. So yes, I have had a glass of wine with her and watching Ozark. So we'll see what happens after this.
Lou, I'm going to leave you to go and watch Ozark and enjoy the rest of your evening there. And thanks, dude. We'll chat over WhatsApp, and people, please contact Louis. I mean, he's like you said, he's open to helping you. You can get all his details on. There's his name. You can get all these details on. Cheers, Louis.
Thank you
really
very
appreciate
much,
your time, man.
Happy Easter. Lots of love.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Same to you, man. Bye. Well, there you go, guys. Some insight from all the way across the country, all the way across the globe, in Hobbit country, as I call it. Yeah, I think look back at the video as it's recorded on YouTube and on Facebook, and there's some insights that I think you can take away from here. There is no silver bullet, but I do think it's important. I spoke to Michael Moll, the doctor, yesterday, and they are putting together apps and programs, and I'll put it in the descriptions in the comments for you guys, where you are able to look after your mental health, look after your physical health, speak to a doctor. And I think it's a very important thing. Money is not everything. You've got to understand that you got to take a breath, like Louis said, reassess what's going on, and use this time to reflect. In a lifetime, it's not. It's a blimp. It's a blip on the thing. It's such a quick. It's a blink of an eye. Guys, tomorrow we are no, not tomorrow. I'm going to leave you guys for Easter. Enjoy all your Easter. But on Tuesday, the 14th, we are talking to Mike Sharman, a company owner. Let me just put his website up here so you guys can see. A revolutionary person. I would suggest you guys tune in. He owns a company called Retroviral. He really understands what this industry is, what they do is. Just see if we can get it there. There's one of the promos on their website. Go and have a look. Go and see what they do. This man understands. He's an author of a book, which I'm not going to mention online now because I think I might get flagged. But he can talk all about it. Yeah, thank you very much. We'll see you on Tuesday, the 14th, after Easter. Enjoy the long weekend. And yeah, thanks to everybody who was, thanks Mike, thanks, happy Easter from Mike as well. Guys, yeah, look after each other, enjoy the long weekend. Now you don't have an excuse, you don't have to work from home, you can actually just, you can just chill. But we'll resume this on Monday the 14th. Tuesday the 14th, I'm sorry guys, after the long weekend. Enjoy, stay healthy. Love you, everybody. Thank you very much.